Hi, everyone. It's Larry Gordon with Esta Gordon. This is Between the Lines. Today, our guest is Norm Kaish, resident out here on Long Island in West Hempstead. And I don't know too much about Norm, except that we met a couple of times. And I know that he has a very fascinating project that we're going to talk about today from multiple angles. The project is called Wall of Tears.
The Talmud tells us that when God wanted to give the Torah to the Jewish people, all the mountains, the mightiest mountains, the highest mountains, the loftiest mountains, all of them came to God and begged him, give me the honor. I want the honor. Give the Torah on my peak. And God said, no. I have a small mountain, and his name is Sinai. And I'm going to give the Torah on that mountain, on that small mountain, to teach the Jew a lesson, to teach the Jew to be humble. That's the story. Nice story, goes over well with shul-wise. Now, to be humble. The Gera Rebbe, the Rebbe of Gur, studied this particular portion of the Talmud, and he asks a good question. A question which I'm sure is obvious to many, many people here already. And he said, there's something wrong here. If God wanted to teach the Jew to be humble, why didn't he give the Torah in a valley? It's about the most humble place that one can imagine. You don't get lower than a valley. So he answered the question with a tremendous answer, and he said, God wanted to teach the Jews two lessons. One, be humble. Two, don't be too humble. Never be a valley. Jews aren't that. Don't let people stamp on you and trample on you and stomp on you. That's not the Jewish way. There is no mitzvah to be stepped upon. Nothing good came out of Auschwitz. Nothing good. It's better to be a winner than to be a loser. It's better to live than die. And it's better to have a Jewish state that is hated by the whole world than an Auschwitz that's loved by it. I know that.
And just the other day, I was trying to explain to someone what it is, and I found it very hard to tell them where the water's coming from. But Wall of Tears is going to be like a memorial wall in terms of where it's going to be located.
Hose behind there.
Yeah, I don't know. Norm will explain it to us, but let's talk about what are the motivational factors for all of us that at this stage of your life here in 2026 that you thought it was the right time to come up with this very unique, innovative type of memorial to remember the Holocaust. So tell us a little bit about your background and what pushed you in this direction.
Okay, so happy to talk about the Wall of Tears. From my own perspective, I was asked by my local synagogue in West Hempstead to think about a design for a Holocaust memorial for a synagogue. In the research that I did, I found out that the antisemitism already was taking off in significant manner. And when I started to look at some of the other Holocaust memorials around the country, what I found is that they don't teach about the Holocaust. And one of the things I found in the research is that millennials don't know anything about the Holocaust. Never heard of Auschwitz, don't know what Dachau is. 6 million is a questionable number for many of them. And so that became a driving force behind a monument that we're hoping to build now in Cedarhurst Park.
Okay, so, at the piece that we played at the head of the, before we started talking, the little clip of a speech given by Rabbi Meir Kahana many, many years ago, he was saying that, he's tired of memorials. He's tired of museums. Right. He's tired of all these types of things that memorialize what happened during the Holocaust. Of course, as awful and horrible as it was, of course, for the many people that died and for their families. He was an advocate to fight back. So a little bit different than what we're referring to.
Actually not that much different.
Okay.
The Wall of Tears is my way of fighting back. What we're looking to do is educate the kids who are not yet anti-Semites about the history of the Jews. Of course, the elephant in the room will always be Israel, but it's all about anti-Semitism as a whole. And so the Wall of Tears, in addition to 16-foot wide granite wall that has a map of Europe, it has plaques on it that talk about what the citizens of each of those countries did, how they reacted, how they were complicit, how they were ignoring the plight of their neighbors. There are lessons in here that are fight back lessons that are important for kids to understand. And so having the wall in the park allows every class from every school in the 5 towns, both private and public, to step forward and get a lesson on what the history of the Jews is going backwards and what anti-Semitism is going forward. And that's both from active anti-Semitism and those that are complicit through their silence.
A lot of kids know about it. They don't believe it. And their non-believing in it is what they're taught in the public schools.
Right.
Now,
So-
that's
Or not
something
taught.
else.
Or not taught.
No, they talk about, people say there were a Holocaust, but don't believe it.
All right. So one of the things that the Wall of Tears does is it has 44 plaques like this. It has an actual photo. It has a description of what went on here. In this case, it was the rescue of the Danish Jewry by the citizens of Denmark. And it has a QR code of a guy who owned the boat. And it tells you his story. We have that for Dachau, for Auschwitz. We have it for Switzerland and how they handled the money for the Germans. We have stories being told by the people who were involved in it. And so that makes it a little bit different than reading in a cold history book.
All right, so let me just, in context of what's going on in the world today, Norm. In that context, I'm uncomfortable. I think anti-Semitism is like a euphemism for something that no one really understands what it is. And when you say anti-Semitism, it's the words are well known. They go together. They're used very, very often, especially today. But I find that a better explanation, a better definition of anti-Semitism is Jew hatred. Okay, I think people
Or
hide.
Jew jealousy.
Well, that's
I think
that's another way of
we
approaching
spoke about that
it.
last night
Yes.
with this man, and I like his take on it. And he says, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic? Bring it on. Of course you're anti-Semitic. Look at all the accomplishments all the Jews did as far as the Nobel Peace Prize and everything they've ever discovered in the 0.2."
1.2%,
2%
of the world
of the
population.
world. So if you want to be like that, go ahead. Just don't use our phones. Don't use anything we create. Why would you?
Right, so I see anti-Semitism in 2 different views. One is the active anti-Semite, who you will never, through any memorial or
Right.
any
You're not
education,
changing.
you're not converting him.
Right.
But he's on a podcast and he's speaking to a lot of people.
Yes,
and
we know who it is.
And those are the silent majority who are listening to this
Right.
crap and understanding that maybe there's something to it, maybe there isn't, but they're not active anti-Semites yet.
Right.
And that's where I draw the line. And then I've heard often it said, where there's a void, nothing good will fill it. So we either fill the void by stepping up, speaking about anti-Semitism, letting them know it's not acceptable, letting them know that the history that they think they know is not the correct history, or suffer the consequences.
So let's take a step back, and I think anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, no matter what you refer to it as, is like Esta was saying, has a disconnect from reality. Okay, in certain ways, you're trying to, with Wall of Tears, trying to bring it into modern day reality, but still. This generation hasn't lived it, and in Esta's case, in your case,
I've lived it.
You lived it. Now, your parents. Tell us about your parents and how it impacted on you as a child of Holocaust survivors.
They were both still survivors. The only reason my mother is still alive is the Germans pulled her out of the line.
Was alive at the time, you mean?
Was alive at the age of 9. She
Yeah.
was with the entire town, her whole family, her whole
Poland.
extended family, and they pulled her out because they felt she was a German. She was the only one there with the blonde hair and blue eyes. So she ended up surviving barely. At the age of 9, she was being hid in somebody that worked in her grandmother's home for years in a basement. But they, back and forth to the forest because the Polish were very excited that everybody was exterminated. So if they would think that there was a Jew in the basement, they would tell the Germans. And my father, luckily, was with his yeshiva, and he also was from that town, and his family also destroyed. He happened to have been in Bialystok, and then they ran to Siberia. So he was one of the lucky ones that spent like a good 6 balmy years running away from the Germans and running away from the Russians.
Okay, so now...
And it impacted on our lives
so
tremendously.
how did it impact on you and your brother's lives?
My parents got married at a very young age. My mother already was a mother of twins at 16 and a half. There was no life. They didn't, she had no childhood.
How did it impact on you and your brothers?
Well, first of all, they didn't speak about it. My father always had guilt feelings because he was a survivor. And my mother was living with PTSD all her life. She
didn't know what it was, though.
She didn't know what it was, and it was hard for her to be happy. And we grew up with that. We just grew up with that. It was very difficult.
So that's you and your brothers, okay?
Right.
That's in the, let's call it mostly the 60s and the 70s.
Right.
Okay, now you got married and have children, okay? 6 children.
Right.
So how do you think it impacts on those children? And then I ask you, how's it impact on their children 4 generations
I don't
later?
know. I was always a very anxious mother, but you were too, and you didn't go through what I went through. So I don't know if that's that. So unfortunately, my kids had 2 very anxiety-ridden parents.
I wouldn't call it anxiety-ridden necessarily. I don't want to get off on a tangent with a psychological analysis.
We knew where they were at all times.
Nothing wrong with knowing where your kids are at all times.
Look, what can I say? Our kids really didn't know much. My parents came to us for Yontif, and my father he was like real tzaddik and a very mild-mannered man. But when he would see all my kids eat a half a bowl of cereal and throw it out, it horrified him. And my kids would always say to me, "Don't send me to Bubby and Zadie for Shabbos. They're going to feed us till we burst." There was always a humongous amount of food there.
It was a big celebration to have what to eat.
It's an unbelievable thing for us to even think about how people fought. Mother and child would fight over the same piece of bread. It's inconceivable that humanity could be brought to that level, but that's what happened. And I'm not sure you can convey that through a memorial or even our podcast. I mean, they're hearing it from you.
They have to be taught. Our kids have to be taught
That's
this.
right.
That's the problem. I understand you want the public schools taught. Our kids have no clue.
You mean
really?
in yeshivas?
In the yeshiva. This is something that should be taught like everything else.
Right.
But you really can't know it unless you really live it.
I don't know. There are certain films. There are films that you could show.
You could know the narrative, but it's different than living with it.
Obviously. But if they saw enough films and heard about it day in and day out enough times, then it will resonate with them. It's a disconnect. Even October 7th, you think everybody's walking around now thinking, I keep telling him, I see this happening again. What happened in the 40s? I see it. I never thought I would, but I feel it and I see it.
Yeah, so I don't see it happening here like
Why?
it did in the 40s because I don't think that's America. What I do see in America...
Well, America wasn't so great for the Jews.
Yes, but you didn't have factories that destroyed Jews. You had anti-Semitism. It's a big difference. But what's happening now is it's becoming normal to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
It's being accepted by society. That's the first step. That's really the canary in the mine that tells you something horrible has changed here. America has become 60% anti-Israel. Also,
look at our mayor.
a major change.
And look at people
mayors
representing
in
us.
position of
New York
power.
City
Right.
mayor.
So
Right.
I've heard
Not our mayor, I'm sorry, the
New York
mayor of
City.
New York City.
Right.
We
Right.
have phenomenal representation in Long Island, and thank goodness I'm here. But we do have a governor who kowtows to the mayor, and the
Right.
governor will affect us.
Right, so clearly it's a problem, and I've heard people a lot smarter than me say there isn't a future for Jews in America, and that is an absolutely stunning statement for me to hear.
Well, people have been saying that for a long time.
I don't think so. I think they're
I
saying
don't
it
know.
more seriously now.
I don't know. I don't know. There's crazy things going on, that's for sure. But you undertook, Norm, quite a project.
Right.
It involves a lot of money that you're in the process of raising. I think what I read, you're talking about
$350,000 what we needed to raise. We raised
for-
100
for-
of it so
for
far.
for one piece.
For one
What?
one monument
So,
in one park.
Where is it going to be in the park?
It's going to be right on Cedarhurst Avenue. There's a horse there right now.
Right,
So
right.
it's right in that area.
There's a horse
So
with
you'll
a
be
New
able
York-
to
with a
step
New York Mets
from the
logo.
sidewalk
It has
into
a New York
the.
Mets logo on it, the horse, right?
Was,
Yeah, it does. I
Has a
think
New York
so.
Mets logo, which
Right.
people will be happy to see it. See that go, I think.
Yeah, but-
so explain to us how people are going to interface with it.
So-
you want to get it erected there.
Right, so it's going to have it's going to be obviously significant in size, 16 feet wide and 10
Okay.
feet tall. It
How
has a
much?
nair
15
tummy,
feet
which
tall?
is a gas flame at the top.
15 feet tall, you said.
16 feet tall, yes.
16 feet tall?
Sorry,
No,
10
wide.
feet tall,
10 feet
16
tall.
feet
16
wide.
feet wide.
Right,
Okay.
and it has a nair tummy at the top, so it's a gas flame that's lit for perpetually. There are tears falling from half of those 44 plaques into a pool called the Pool of Tears. We're considering putting actually some music that will only be heard within 5 feet of the monument. This theme song from Schindler's List, for example,
Yeah.
to me one of the most impactful
Yeah.
films
Right.
that you don't have to be Jewish to understand.
Right.
That is what the Holocaust was
Right.
about. Obviously, people can't sit for 2 hours and look. So the plaques are set up so that each plaque can be read in 10 or 15
Individually,
seconds.
yes.
You can spend 5 seconds looking at a picture. And if you want to download the QR code, that'll tell you something for the next 5 or 10 minutes from an expert or somebody who survived it.
All right, so this was designed. You designed it?
I designed it.
And
Is there anything like this anywhere else?
I haven't found anything like it. Now I'm starting to see some neighborhoods, I think in Teaneck, talking about putting up TV screens where they can screen similar things, basically survivors' testimony,
right.
things like that, to make it a
Right.
little more real than
Right.
just a static display. And that's what most of the displays are. You walk up to this display, it's supposed to be about people who died, and it's 6 million is the number. It's meaningless. It has no context to it.
Right.
so you've been to Yad Vashem, I'm sure, right?
To Yad Vashem
And
many
you've been
times.
to the Holocaust Museum in D.C.,
in
Washington,
D.C.
and then
yes,
Lower Manhattan,
and in New
Lower
York, the
Manhattan.
Heritage.
So, what about those memorials, so to speak?
So they're tremendously impactful. However,
You
you
have
have
to
to
go
drag
inside.
people there.
Right.
Right. So, for example, in Long Island, we have a very nice museum out in Glen Cove, but who's going to get in a car and drive for an
Glen
hour
Cove, right.
when you could possibly get a similar education from something that's in your park and something you're passing every day? I'm looking to put it on college campuses. We've already got $350,000 allocated in this year's capital budget in Nassau County by the legislature for Nassau Community College.
Really?
And if they build it there, those kids in their 2-year education will pass this monument every single day for
Right.
2 years.
Right.
And it cannot but anything be impactful to them.
So, where is it? Where is it being built, and what kind of time does it take? And
So it takes 9 months to actually build it from the time that we've
where
raised
is
the money
done?
that we
Who's
need.
doing that?
It's being built by Sprung Memorials. They're one of the largest memorial
Yes,
builders
yeah,
out
yeah.
on Long Island.
Newman
Adam
Davis,
Sprung
yeah.
has helped me engineer it and has been working with me from really day one.
So it's made from that kind of stone.
Granite,
It's made from granite.
which is the strong.
And how is it going to be attached?
So
to the
it's built
ground?
around a frame of steel because it would be
You have
impossible.
to.
It's 18
Right.
feet deep, 18 inches deep, so it's impossible to move something like that.
Right.
So it's built around a frame. We're going to engrave on the side of the memorial the names of donors who are giving $2,500 or more, either their names or the names of their survivors or the names of people they've lost in the Holocaust, so that there could be a living memorial for at least those who were deeply involved.
Has any thought been given to the idea of vandalism? I mean, we're living in a day and age where kids paint swastikas with a magic marker on mailboxes,
Right,
and
so
on,
we estimate
granite
parking
is
meters.
pretty sturdy.
Yeah, so we pretty much
you can still mark it up. You know,
we pretty much expect 100% chance that it's going to be
That it's
vandalized.
gonna be.
So there's an enormous number of cameras in the park. We're going to be adding license plate readers around the neighborhood to do what we can do. But nevertheless, it will be attacked because that's what it does. It stands
Right.
for a fight against anti-Semitism. It will draw anti-Semites out.
So anti-Semitism today, or Jew hatred, became part of the vernacular. It's,
They don't call it really. It's really Israel. It's a Zionist.
well,
that
yeah,
really-
well, that's
It's the
That's a
Jew.
little
It's the
facade
Jew.
there.
It's the Jews of Zionism.
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
So how is Israel incorporated into your project, or is it strictly about the Holocaust with no reference to anything?
So
about
it's
Israel?
interesting because the center part of this, the 12-foot map of Europe, is all about the Holocaust. The left panel is a description of the international definition of anti-Semitism, and then the right side of the monument talks about how since the Holocaust, the Jews, 800,000 of them, have been driven out of all of the Arab countries.
Right.
So where did they go? So I don't talk about Israel as as part of the subject matter, but it is the elephant in the room.
Right.
And we expect that every docent that we bring in that will be teaching a teacher or a class will be talking about where those Jews
Something
went.
else that nobody's aware of.
Exactly.
That's a big uphill climb.
800,000 people were displaced.
chased out
Right,
of their
from
homes.
Morocco, from
Right,
Iran,
right.
Iraq,
Exactly.
Libya, Syria. I mean, you name it, they were driven out, and this is not new. So the Holocaust didn't end in 1945; it continued on, and the Jews have been attacked with slogans like "From the river to the sea," or "We will slaughter them," or "We will drive them into the sea." That's been going on for the last 70 years.
Right.
So they need an education to understand what Israel really means and what it's gone through to survive, just to survive. The fact that it's surviving so well, I think, is an annoyance to a lot of anti-Semites.
All right, so we were talking about a few minutes ago. You're talking
Right.
about it's the success of Jewish communities around the world. Is that really, I think, we could say, ignites the attention to Jews and the success of Jewish communities in different countries around the world, and even some failing countries that chased Jews out 70 years ago were trying to redevelop their Jewish communities in hope of saving their economy.
Right, so Jewish communities have done a tremendous job in educating their own kids, and so they've grown up to have the most patents in the world,
Right.
to have the most, awards of any kind in both medicine. Technology, in every aspect of life, from banking to government. But on the other hand, we've done a horrible
Our
job.
PR is
PR
the
is
worst.
non-existent, and I can't understand that because we
don't-
get it.
That's
we
true.
get it in business.
That's true of Israel in general. You know, everyone's always complaining about the Hasbara and how Israel gets the word out or doesn't get the word out, even though they're a small country with 10 million people, 2 million Arabs, just 8 million Jews. And take into consideration and in context of what's going on today with Iran, where there are 90 million people living. It's just a smidgen the population of the state of Israel. So it's hard to stack one up against the other. It's very difficult.
It is very hard to compare it, but when you talk about the United States, American Jewry have not made the case for Israel well enough, given the onslaught that's come after October 7th.
So, over the years, I've met a number of Jews that were saved. Somehow they made it to, for example, Cuba. Okay, Cuba is very much in the news. It's falling apart. Is there any kind of attention being given to countries that welcome Jews in that were, trying to escape Eastern Europe?
So it's interesting, China also took in Jews.
Right.
Yeshivas were saved.
Right, Demir.
Right.
Demir, that was...
Shanghai.
yeah.
Shanghai, correct. Correct. And I've talked to them about that. And, so the Jews are not, obviously a priority for any of the other countries, from Russia to China. There's no, or Cuba for that matter.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no interest.
Cuba's falling apart. Cuba has, they only have electricity 2 hours a day in people's homes,
Yeah, but the Jews that were there and that remained are no longer, their families are not Jews anymore. Everybody intermarried.
Yeah,
It's been watered down.
Well,
completely.
it was a pre-Castro Cuba that welcomed, that was a transit point or a go-between Jews. I guess escaping by whatever ships were traveling through the high seas to make it, I guess, eventually to the United States.
Well, Australia, there are a lot of countries that a lot of Jews
Yes,
ended up going
they
to.
still have remnants of Jewish communities.
They do.
Australia has a very vibrant
And
Jewish
anti-Semitism is
community.
raging in Australia,
Oh, my goodness.
as it is in Europe.
Right.
And so Cuba has a small population of Jews. They're hanging on by a thread. I remember sending tefillin and siddurim to the small group of people who have no other
Cuba.
way, no access to it. But they are existing. Whether they can resurrect themselves into a real vibrant community post-communism, we'll see.
At some point, someone in the United States, whether it's Marco Rubio, who's from Cuba, or President Trump, is going to make some kind
Ted
of effort.
Cruz.
Yeah, also from Cuba. His
Right.
family's from Cuba. Someone's going to try to have some kind of impact on Cuba, and I wonder what role the history of the Jewish community there will be able to play on it.
Well,
So-
like every community, the first thing you need is Chabad. Once you
Yeah.
have Chabad in
Cuba.
Is there a Chabad?
in
I
Cuba,
don't
that's
think
it.
so.
I'm buying a condo.
I don't
in-
think so.
Why would anybody want to live in Cuba with electricity off 22 hours a day? You know?
They're living in Ukraine, and I would say the electricity has been off and on for a while.
Things can change. Things can change there.
It's supposed to be a beautiful country.
I'd like to think
yeah,
they can
wonderful.
change here too.
So let's talk
Back
about
to
let's talk about the economics again, so I can understand it clearer. Each one of the monuments requires $350,000
Yes.
to erect,
That's
and the goal is ideally, or in your dream, what would you like to see happen in terms
Colleges.
of where and how many and what parts
Oh,
of the
my
world?
dream is to put one on every college campus in the country. I've talked to University of Florida. I've talked to universities in Michigan. There
What
is
kind of reaction? What kind of reaction are you getting?
interesting, different reactions. The first question is, where have you built it? So
They
that's
wanna
of
see
course
it. They
always
wanna
been a
see
problem.
one.
That's why Cedarhurst is so important. That's why Nassau Community College is so important. But we've been stymied at Nassau Community College for their internal politics. But I think Cedarhurst will make a big difference for us moving forward.
Because of the
Because
nature,
of the reality
nature of the
that it
Jewish
will
community
exist.
here?
I can bring presidents of universities there
Right.
and show
They
it to
have to
them.
see it.
And then it can make national headlines where, as opposed to being local news, it will become a national news because a town wrapped their arms around it and they started teaching about it in their public park.
So ideally, how will the economics work? I mean, if someone came in and wrote a check for $10 million, and you could
Done.
put up as many as
I can retire,
many
and
as you
somebody
want.
else can run the
You
Wall
could-
of
you
Tears
could erect,
Foundation.
20 of them, and,
Yeah.
and be busy for the next 10 years just building them.
That's right.
But
It's more.
What's
But you have to
the second choice.
You
After
have to
that?
understand it's more than just building them. It's not enough to put up a stone in a park, no matter how much information it has on it. You have to bring the kids to it. You have to have a docent that can teach it, that can speak about it, and put it into the news, make it real. Because if you don't do that, then it becomes just an afterthought of one day it was interesting, and the next day they forgot all about it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So ideally, how do you see the major donors, small donors? What do you envision?
So we have
usually in the projects like this, they say in all philanthropy, especially in the Jewish community, 90% of the money comes from 10% of the people.
And that's probably true here, too. I mean, we've had a couple of people step up with $25,000 donations, one for $30,000. There have been a lot of them at the $100, $250 level, which is fine with me. I mean, I'd love everybody that can afford to step up to please do so. There are about a dozen people that want to put their relatives' names on it for $2,500. So
That'd be interesting if you could focus on specific families.
yeah, there
there a way
are
to
some
do that?
families in this community who I am sure would support something like this. It's a matter of reaching out to them, and I'm hoping through this podcast the word will get out, not only to the people who are Baal Tzedakah, but also the restaurants, the supermarkets, the professionals in the community who can afford to write a check to make sure that this story is
Are you
not
going to have
forgotten.
flyers made
We have
up,
flyers
so you
out.
Put them out?
We've been advertising in every one of the newspapers. You guys have done a phenomenal story this
Right.
past issue, written by Rochelle Miller,
Right,
that actually
right,
tells the
right.
story of a Wall of Tears. So it's through your help that we're hoping to get the word out.
So, what is the reaction? Any resistance to the idea? Because there are people that say, "Why you keep harping on the Holocaust?" I hate to say that,
out of a
but I do hear that.
out of 1,000 people that responded, one rabbi,
One.
one.
What was
His
it?
resistance
What
was,
was-
"Look, I see what you're doing. It makes a lot of sense. It's not for me. I'm looking at today's Jews. I'm trying to save today's Jews. You're looking backwards in history. I'm looking forward in history."
No, this is forward too.
I know he didn't get it.
Okay.
But I respect his
Okay.
opinion. I mean, he's a rabbi of a small community on Long Island. It's his opinion, but
Right.
it's a rarity. Almost universally, people look at it and go, "This is a great idea. We should do it." But you have to step up for it to become a reality.
Right.
So, how do you? We were talking about the fourth generation. I mean, how short of going and seeing or studying the Wall of Tears, how does this, you think, get filtered down to a fourth generation, and should it impact on the next generation of families?
If the schools are taking more responsibility for this in a meaningful way, not just a Yom HaShoah day, which comes and goes in a blink, but makes it a study. The study is twofold. One is the horror, which there's no shortage of, but there's also the heroes, the world that saved their Jews, the people who went out of their way to make life better for
Right.
Jews, even if they just hid them in a barn and made their families survive. And now this is the fourth generation of those people.
Right.
Right.
You see pictures of survivors, and they're surrounded by 30, 40 people who are a result of the fact that they survived.
Right.
That's a story worth telling and making it real. And so I'm hoping they will. And there are all kinds of things going on now in the yeshivas. I know in Haftar has one about the pictures and the voices of Holocaust survivors, and trying to make it more real.
So, are you going to have the ability to have tributes to people that saved inordinate numbers of Jews, like Oskar Schindler?
So no, we
who
have plaques.
mentioned?
We have plaques. We have one plaque that's about the Garden of the Righteous in Yad Vashem.
Right.
That talks about how, and it's interesting. There's about 12,000 people that are honored at the Yad Vashem for having saved their neighbors or
Righteous
impacted.
Gentiles.
But that only amounts to like one out of how many billions that
Right.
were there. So one out of
Right.
tens of thousands actually step forward. That's a lesson in and of itself.
Right.
And as I mentioned, the people from Denmark who saved their folks, and in Bulgaria, people rose up. Legislators rose up when the government was willing to go along with the Germans, and the government changed their mind. I see America also, raising up. I see Trump raising up and saying, "I'm not going to accept this in the universities. I'm not going to accept this in the workplace. And there's going to have to be change here, or they'll pay for it." And if there's enough of that happening in the country, then there will be a place for Jews in America.
Very fascinating, called the Wall of Tears. And it's the invention, the idea, or the brainchild of Norm Kaish, who we've been speaking with the last half hour or so. And looking forward to very soon seeing one built right up a few hundred feet from where we're sitting right now here in Cedarhurst, New York. All he needs is the money to move forward, right? We'll get some information on the screen about where to contact you and how to contact you.
Great.
And put you in touch with the right people that can make it happen. It's something
And
that
should be made happen.
yeah, it's something that can happen. It's not an impossibility by any stretch of the imagination. So thanks very much for coming in, Norm.
Thank you for the Gordons, for your attention, for your
Thank
support.
you for sharing this details of this great project with us. That's Between the Lines for this episode for today. I'm Larry Gordon with Esta Gordon. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day.